Hey guys, it's Nightfire Phoenix here with another Phoenix Guide on Warframe. Now, today I'm going to be covering the new Warframe Limbo, and before I get into his abilities, there's a mechanic that this guy uses, and it applies to a couple of his abilities. Um, it'll just make it a lot easier to explain if I just cover it now. So, essentially, his abilities can place targets into a different space called the Rift. Now, an enemy that's in the Rift will not be able to hit anything that's outside of it, so your allies. And allies that are inside the Rift also can't hit enemies that are outside of the Rift. So, um, essentially, this can be used as a form of invulnerability. Energy will also regenerate faster while inside the rift. So, let's say you displace an ember or a necros or something inside the rift. The energy will regenerate faster, and all of their abilities can still hit. It's just auto gun attacks and melee attacks and stuff that won't hit. So Ember's ultimate and Necro's Desecrate, it still affects everything that's outside. It just stops them from being able to attack and from being able to pick up drops as well, for that matter. So with that explained, let's get into his abilities. Banish is a single target spell which will place a target into the rift and deal damage. It's got a pretty good duration, and it can be used on allies a second time to take them back out again. Because they can't loot while they're in there, bringing them back out is good. Um, before the hotfix about an hour ago, people couldn't get toggled back out of the rift using this ability, and if you had the duration up to over a minute, there's nothing you could do about it. Trolls can still troll you and place you in the rift for over a minute, but it's at least for anyone that's actually trying to play properly. There's a way out. It'd be nice if players could take that off themselves, but they can't. They sort of have to rely on Limbo doing it for them. Now, Riftwalk, it's just a cheap 15 energy skill. You can put yourself into the rift plane, and if you activate it again, cancels the skill and brings you back out. You only actually pay that 15 to get in. Because of the increased energy regeneration while you're in the rift, it basically pays for itself and more. Rift Surge, it's just a damage amplifier for while you're in the rift. It's not that high considering how much shit you have to do to actually get things in there. Banishing things one at a time to do 3 times damage to it when you're at max rank isn't going to be very much, but if you are min-maxing and you are taking a team into like a defense, then this damage multiplier is good. The fact that it will stack on top of all the other ones that you might be running. I would really like to see an Ember and a Nova running Accelerant and Molecular Prime at the same time as this, to get some really high multipliers. I think it'd be amazing. His ultimate, Cataclysm, is a massive dome which banishes everything inside of it into the rift, and so obviously anything that's inside of it can't hit anything that's outside of it unless that's also been banished. Um, Essentially, it can be used in defense missions to protect the cryopod, which should probably be its main use, but in other situations, if you're rift walking and you cataclysm a group of enemies that are away from you, because it is targeted onto another location, it's not just centered around your character, it allows you to fight them while also restricting them from being able to hit your teammates. On the other hand, you could also use it to stop your teammates being able to attack that group of enemies yourself if you wanted to be greedy. Um, but yeah, if you use it on a defensive location, such as a defense. All your allies that are inside of that will get all of the perks of being in the rift, your rift surge and your bonus regen, so it can be used for that. But just if you do that, you can't fire out of it, enemies can't fire in, so it does have a trade-off, and while inside of it you can't loot. With maximum power efficiency, which I think I would run with this, you'd be able to maintain it pretty well. You would also be able to continually banish things. Your energy regen would be really high, and the only downside would be duration, which I would actually supplement with power duration mods, because being able to banish for longer durations isn't too bad, being able to rift surge for longer durations isn't too bad, and rift walk is almost irrelevant, its duration. Okay, so when I use my ultimate, you can see from this that the radius is quite large when you've got full range mods on it. I've applied this setup just to show you just how big it can get. It basically filled the entire room when it was fresh. As the duration goes on, it actually decreases in size quite rapidly when it's this big. It doesn't decrease that much when it starts off smaller, which you'll see in a second. Okay, so now if I come back and I remove the power range, I'm going to replace it with power duration, just because I can. And I can't afford that, damn. I'll just grab maybe this, because power efficiency isn't so important. I can afford to basically maintain all my abilities anyway, but it is nice. Also, I don't mind if my abilities are incredibly long duration, but having them half duration can be kind of annoying to recast regularly. So yeah, just having those to offset, and then I think power range would be good if you're going to really high level stuff to get the multiplier from your third ability up. Then I think that the power strength would become very useful, effectively meaning that I would want all the different kinds of mods, because I do like the larger size on Cataclysm. Okay, so with power range off, as you can see right now, the size of this dome is much smaller to start with. Also, as you can see, it just confirms that the size shrinks, I believe, proportional to its size. So if it's huge when you use it, it's going to be shrinking very rapidly. If it's not so big when you use it, then it just comes down to the point where it's almost non-existent, but it does shrink slower. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, this is a pretty fun frame. Very interesting design. I think that the best use of it's going to really come in for solo play, or in organized groups. It'll allow it to get some pretty nice damage amplification, and I think in defense missions, using Cataclysm over the cryopod is effective, but it still doesn't really nullify other frames like Frost at all. Frost is still a little bit better, but you'd sort of use this, I think, for the damage amplification over Frost, if that's what your team was stacking or after, like if you didn't really need the extra survivability, because once everything's in the rift plane, everyone's very squishy. One use of Cataclysm that you can do is toggle yourself into the Rift plane with Rift Walk, and then Cataclysm a bunch of Grineer or Corpus away from you, and then proceed to just shoot at them. Uh, Allies will have to close in that distance to actually be able to kill them, but it will also protect your allies from actually taking damage from that group, so it's also very useful. I hope you enjoyed this guide, and if you did, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon when I post my next video about the patch.